Um, okay, here we go. Welcome to our December Zoom meeting hosted by co-hosted. Oh, is it January? Thank you, Jeannie. Jeannie Cosby's here for obvious reasons. Our native plants live here in association with the Sequoia chapter of the California Native Plant Society meeting, during which we will receive an expert guided tour of the California Native Plant Society website. As we always do, I would like to wrap around our meeting with the gardener's version of the Serenity Prayer, which has helped me through many of a walk through my garden, during which I was ready to give up. You can join me if you like, or you can just witness my attempt at serenity in my garden. So what I say as I see deer and I see rabbits and I see bucks taking down things I've struggled to grow for years and squirrel holes next to my precious plants, I say, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change in my garden, and grant me the courage to change the things I can. And please grant me the wisdom to know the difference so that I'm not always fighting in my garden, but instead, I find a peaceful and serene place for my heart to be at rest. Before we get started tonight, I wanted to suggest to you guys optional activity, but I wanted to suggest to you that as our co-hosts go through, give you lots of visuals and information about the website, maybe you could think ahead of time, and we'll take about a minute for this. Just write off, are there maybe 3 questions that you have about your garden, about gardening, about native plants, anything? Just 3 things that just come to your brain. And I'd like to suggest that you write them down, because we're going to either use them during the class or you'll answer them yourselves at the end. But I'd like to engage you in reflection on just maybe think about yourself out in your yard and your desire to have a beautiful yard of native plants. And let's take about 60 seconds and write down perhaps 3 thoughts or questions that you have about that. So we'll take about 60 seconds starting now. I will do it too. About 20 more seconds. Okay, awesome. Okay, with that, I'd like to get started on the fat part of our meeting. And to that end, I want to introduce our 2 speakers for tonight. And the first person I will introduce is Reagan O'Leary, who is here somewhere. You'll see her in a minute. Reagan is an environmental scientist and a biologist who has been a member of the Sequoia chapter of California Native Plant Society for many years. And with any luck at all, it appears that she may be stepping up to chapter president of the Sequoia chapter. That's in the works, and not a certain thing, but it is a really wonderful possibility. Um, although she is not here in her official capacity, she works for the Department of Fish and Wildlife in our area. And the second person I'm going to introduce, who will be starting us off, is Elizabeth Kuby. And Elizabeth is an outreach coordinator, the outreach coordinator of the state organization of California Native Plant Society based in Sacramento. And we are thrilled to have her with her at the end of her California Native Plant Society workday. She's having a work night with us, for which we're really grateful. So the shape of the meeting will essentially be Elizabeth will introduce us to things. Reagan will get into some depth on the overall website, both horticulture or gardening and other things. And then Elizabeth will finish with with a grand finale, so to speak, and some membership information. So with that, take it away, Elizabeth. Now, you guys, if I could suggest to you, if you go to the top right-hand corner of your screen with your mouse, you're going to see some options. You may see a little icon that says view. You might want to choose speaker view, which will allow you to see Elizabeth as she speaks and then Reagan as she speaks. Play around with that until you get it, because it really makes everything more interesting if you can see the people presenting. Okay.
Yeah, and then also just another tip, it probably says at the top, like Elizabeth's sharing her screen, you can also click view options and you can customize how big the slides are. You probably want them to be pretty big because as we're going through the website, it might be a little tiny. We'll try to zoom in a little bit to make it clearer, but yeah, there's lots of customization you do. So thank you, Leslie, for the intro. I'm Elizabeth, and I've been working with the state office of CNPS since August 2017. So I've been there for a little bit. And I know that we have a large mix of people here. So I just want to kind of take a little bit of time, just give an introduction to the California Native Plant Society for those who are new to that. So California Native Plant Society, also known as CNPS, you'll hear that acronym a lot, is a nonprofit organization. And it's been around for over 50 years. And so, you know, you may be familiar with native plants, but that's what makes California, California. It gives us a sense of place. It's everything from the Joshua trees in Southern California to our redwood forests that go all the way up to the North Coast. And we're just so lucky to live in such a bio-rich and diverse state. We have the most biodiversity of any state in the country, which is so exciting that you can just travel a few hours and be in a totally different world. And so the California Native Plant Society, I think that's something, you know, we're celebrating and also protecting. And we definitely invite you to join us if you aren't already a member. So we have over 10,000 members throughout the state of California, and we have a Baja chapter in Mexico as well. And so that's 35 chapters throughout that kind of get to focus more locally on issues in their local area, like they get involved in policy, or they'll, you know, organize garden tours, which are really fun. And so getting involved in your local chapter, which would be Sequoia, you'll get to meet a lot of fascinating people like Leslie and Reagan. And I think Sherith is on this call too. So these are people that have been gardening or been involved in conservation for many years, and you get to kind of get a crash course and learn about that with them and just gain all of their wisdom. So it's really awesome. So kind of outlined in this slide here, some ways that we get at that protecting and celebrating native plants is we work to conserve wildlands, protect endangered species. We collect scientific data. So we have field scientists and botanists going out and, you know, collecting that data. And we also try to restore nature in our homes and public landscapes, just one garden at a time. So that's what we'll definitely be focused on today, the horticulture gardening aspect of CNPS. And I'm sure as you've heard, you know, we have a lot of environmental concerns with climate change and extinction crisis. And so, you know, having that voice for plants is super important now more than ever. And so if you're inspired at all by what you see today, definitely feel free to chat up Leslie or Reagan. or me to learn more about getting involved, and we'll give a little bit more information on becoming a member at the end of the talk. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Reagan, you can go ahead and take over and give us a overview of the CNPS website.
Okay, now I need to figure. Thought my option was on the top.
If you hover over the bottom of your screen, you should see a green.
I just see the share screen. Okay. There we go.
Oops.
Okay, general Google screen. All you got to do is type in CNPS. Right on the top. So this website is so deep. I'm gonna go over the broad brush of some of the aspects, and the idea is to share with you and to initiate conversation. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we can talk about them towards the end. And trying to think anything else. I guess if you really want to speak up, Leslie, you can see folks that have like pressing questions at the moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So my passion is actually vegetation communities as well as rare plants. But I'm just going to go, like I said, the broad brush, and then later on, Elizabeth is going to kind of dive into the depths, in particularly focusing on horticulture. So within this website, clearly the homepage is just breathtaking, and we've got these amazing drone shots. So we've got a newsroom aspect, what's currently going on. And then, oh, and then of course, recent stories. I mean, we could spend so much time. Oh, again, here we go. The Wreath Masters. I'm guessing this was, yep, it's a competition. There's a kids corner pollinator party. Okay, so now let's go into, so that's just kind of like the headlines, right? And then we've got the history, CNPS's accomplishments, and we've got the people, the leadership, the staff, fellows, and then there's job announcements. And then CNPS has publications. So when you join, be a member, you not only get the Fremontia magazine 2 times a year, the Flora magazine, you get quarterly, and this one has a lot of practical articles for anyone that's interested in whether it be like this, the Small Wonders article is about pollinators. And one of the most recent was about restoration. And this beautiful one called Summer Solstice, just, let me see here. Oh, I guess, we had discovered we had to do some downloads. So we're not going to do that now, but you can see that your membership provides you with tangible resources to have in your home. And then there's the CNPS bulletin, just highlights and notification, current things going on. And that comes out how often, Elizabeth?
So actually the bulletin is, it became Flora, which is much more in depth, but bulletin used to be how we kind of stayed in touch. So that's become Flora, and it's a huge, beautiful publication. So if you want to stay up to date with news, we do have an email list which you can access at the very bottom of any screen. It will say sign up for CNPS news, and you can get email to you. And we send normally just monthly, but sometimes we'll send special announcements when we have big events coming up as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And then CNPS has accountability, and you can dive into all of that technical information to report to the members, all the nitty gritty, how the sausage is made.
And if I may pipe in there, if you could scroll down just a little bit again, Reagan.
Yes.
It says that CNPS is a charity. It's a 501c3. And what that means is that our group can raise monies for our work up here. And as long as we have a critical mass of CNPS members, which we're developing, then you can make tax deductible contributions, say to a native garden up here, or to our works up here, or to member benefits up here, and it goes through the CNPS treasury targeted for us. And that's one of the benefits of the coordination of the two different groups, which is a wonderful asset when we want to fundraise.
And currently our main fundraiser has been the native plant sale or the water-wise plant sale that happens in the fall. And to date, that is primarily supporting our China Creek restoration, our park adoption. But that doesn't mean that we can't have more fundraisers and support more endeavors.
Yeah, close.
Yep, and then
And then there are, as Elizabeth said, there are a bunch of chapters throughout the state. And here's a map of the different chapters. And then our chapter falls into the Valley chapter because I guess it's primarily where we're at. So we have Fresno County, we have Madera County, and we have Kings County. And where am I at? After council, what was actually, I didn't dive into that. Oh yeah, the different meetings. So our chapter is, we have a bunch of new board members, and we will be, let's just say we're kind of in the process of reblossoming. So any additional support is definitely welcome, and new ideas, and we will be engaging more with our members and headquarters. Okay, so then there's a contact us. So if you want to contact the headquarters staff, I can tell you right now, they are very open and available. I have only had positive experiences to date. So CNPS's work. So these headers: conservation, education, gardening, which Elizabeth is going to get into more. There's the rare plant program and the vegetation program. I'm not going to fully go into this, but I just want to highlight the headers. So it recognizes it like there's important plant areas throughout the state, and those are areas where there's concentrated rare plants. CNPS.
Reagan, can you click on that conservation main heading? I think it'll bring you to a conservation page.
Oh, that's right. There we go. Well, that looks like Carrizo Plain, and it is. Yes, you're right. So yeah, saving what matters most. Oh, here we go. So like the desert lands is a conservation area. Yeah, they actively participate in planning, looking at the development, like the state CEQA documents. That might be too much lingo, but the planning documents that go into projects that will impact habitats. Climate change clearly is affecting habitats, and there's further research going on with that. fire research, and all sorts of other issues. So let me go back. So there's that. Education. So you can see with education, so there's resources for students and teachers, and there's workshops, there's rare plant treasure hunts. Again, we're going to see that with the rare plant program most likely. There's actually a botanist certification where that actually requires quite an extensive test in person.
You want to
And
click on that
then
page for us? No, the education page?
education page. Oh yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting that. Elizabeth was doing that. I like to fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, as you're seeing, there's a lot of different pathways to get to information you want. So,
Right.
you know, registering you, there's a few different ways to get to where you want to go.
So I would really like for our chapter to start engaging in the rare plant treasure hunts. I personally find it quite like an Easter egg hunt, and I personally haven't partook as of yet, but I've done rare plant surveys, and I have taken my son out to Carrizo Plain and found particular rare plants that a botanist girlfriend of mine gave me particular maps to go find them. And when I reflected back and asked my son what was the most memorable part of his day, he said finding those rare plants. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good. That made me happy. And we did find them because I'm very stubborn and it's like, damn it, I'm gonna find them. So yeah, there's plant science training. We have conferences and symposiums. I've been to 2 conferences thus far. I wish I'd been to more, but they were absolutely amazing. I've been to Wildlife Society conferences, and CNPS far surpasses Wildlife Society conferences. Yeah, we support students through educational grants and research, education resources, and field trips and talks, which we definitely want to have more of in our chapter. So the rare plant program, there is actually an inventory of rare plants. The California Native Plant Society actually has their own listing program, and those rare plants need to be considered before land is developed, and hopefully impacts are mitigated or compensated for. So also you guys in Yosemite Lakes Park have plenty of local rare plants surrounding you.
I forgot to tell them you used to live here.
Oh, I did used to live there. Yes, I did. I lived in YLP for about 2 years on Long Hollow Drive. And it was such a fabulous time. Unfortunately, we ended up not being able to purchase up there because at the time the market was upside down. So we moved down to Fresno and we're making the best of it. But yeah, we have some very warm memories being up there, and it would be wonderful to make it back. So yeah, with locally rare plants, I can dive in a little bit more, but one in particular that occurs near you guys is called orange lupin. And it is a CNPS 1B ranked plant, which is high up on that list because it doesn't occur really anywhere else. Except kind of in that greater Madera area. Let's see here. Let's go to actually let me pull up geez, I found it so online. Okay, let's go. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, So I am for fun going to look up. Oops. Hey, I can't spell. There we go. Orange lupin. So it's in the same family and genus as your bush lupin that occurs in Yosemite Lakes Park. Hey, are we not going to get it? Oh, as you can see how locally located it is. I know that there are a bunch of photos available. Huh. Okay, a lot of times you get fabulous photos, but apparently I'm not going to get that.
You might be thinking of Calscape. We have a lot of photos on
And okay,
that
and I'll go
website.
there. Yeah.
Okay, enough rare plants, Reagan. Yeah, move on. honey.
Here, rare plant photo
Yeah,
collection.
She's a rambler. Yeah. I tried to get her to prepare.
Okay.
She just really wanted to.
Well, some things don't have pretty pictures. Okay, one more thing is the vegetation for okay, that is what I clicked on, right? Oh, there we go. Thank you. So the California Native Plant Society and the Department of Fish and Wildlife have worked very hard in getting this manual available in paper and online. And I wanted to show you guys kind of what this looks like when you do a search. You can, online edition here. So at this point, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with blue oak, because that is the primary tree that occurs in your area. So that would be Quercus douglasii. So I'm going to click that. So this is representing, staff has worked tirelessly to map vegetation communities throughout the state, although it is not done. But we have a really good representation throughout the state where blue oak occurs. And clearly, as you guys know, you guys live in blue oak woodland. But we're calling it, in the scientific name is Quercus douglasii, Forest and Woodland Alliance. If you are interested in finding out other woodlands that occur in your area, like live oak and where else it occurs in the state, this is a really good resource for that. And it's not only the trees, the tree communities, it's got all sorts of shrub communities and herbaceous communities as well. So back.
Reagan, if you're able to wrap up in just a minute, I'll be ready to go into the horticultural
Oh,
gardening
thank
side.
you. See, time flies by.
I know. I was like, we'll have plenty of time. I was like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
already 7:35. So
Okay, so I did want to do a really quick like Calscape. And you were going to dive into that as well.
feel free to show them a little bit. Yeah.
Let's look
orange.
at
Reagan, I do what you're going to do, but I would love to just, where it says search for California native plants, if we just searched a couple of our keystone species up here, I think that might interest people, like blue oak or interior live oak or chaparral whitethorn.
Okay, so I'm in shrubs, so I need to go out actually, because I was thinking of bush lupin. So you got to be in your right group.
And you need to be at the top right-hand search thing, not the one you're in.
Oh, and we discovered that too. That's exactly. Well, if I search here, let's see what happens. We'll just experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you do the upper, then you don't have to be in the category, right?
Right, you just search for a plant.
Right, right. So what's really cool about Calscape is you can get an idea of the size, like average size, maximum size the plant will be, the form, the growth rate, if it has dormancy, if it has fragrance, color, and flowering season. What really catches my eye, especially having been a YLP resident, is all the butterflies and moths that this tree hosts, because I loved going outside at night and looking under the front porch light and seeing all the beautiful moths and trying to get as best pictures as I could of them, because there's such great varieties. So this could actually, if you're curious about what moths are occurring, landing on the walls outside your house, this could actually help you, especially if you know the plants that occur in your area. You could do your own search.
Hey, Reagan, can I say something for a sec?
Yep.
And you guys, this is like, you know how I send a lot of you to the Las Pilitas website to look up plants? Like if you're interested in planting a Cleveland sage, I say, go to the Las Pilitas website, look at the size he says and average them to get the size you think it's going to be. And so in addition to Las Pilitas, this is the best source I know of, really comprehensive source where you can like go to the nursery and see a plant. So let's say you go to the nursery and you see like, Eriogonum umbulatum, for instance. Can you, Reagan, in the search for California plants by name box, can you put like sulfur buckwheat?
Oh, sure.
So you've been to the nursery, you guys. You've seen this thing. You've been like, what the heck? Yeah, that's good. That's good right there. So Calscape is for
I guess it likes the sulfur flower. I don't call it sulfur flower, but let's see what happens. Hello.
Of course, the one thing it's not going to say.
Yeah.
So there you go. Oh my God. Okay, just put.
How about I do it here?
You've hit a weak spot in the thing.
Apparently. Oh, there's so many. What was it again?
Umbulatum.
Thank you.
Way down.
Oh, there's so many varieties.
Go to
see.
That's fine. Just try that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, give me another one.
Yeah, do chaparral whitethorn, which is our Ceanothus leucodermis that we talked about so much. So if you
I get a little carried away with my typing.
So
what the heck is going on?
It's down. So, but generally what'll happen, guys, is you put that in and the stuff shows up and it gives you really good horticultural information, just like it does about the blue oak. Ooh.
I'm going to the groups. I was going to go to the groups. Hey.
So anyway, yeah. So you can search for specific plant information here. It'll tell you how much water it needs, how big it gets, whether it'll do well in our zone, that kind of thing. It's a really good comprehensive growing resource, even though it seems to be a bit down right now.
Let's just do this. It's there.
Great.
I think sometimes Calscape is finicky about spelling, and so sometimes there might be some out of date ones. Like I typed in sulfur with PH and it came up. Buckwheat. So there are some quirks to Calscape for sure. And definitely when you find weird things like that, you can let us know. I'll definitely let the team know about the FER one maybe not working.
Well, it's yet another reason. Yeah.
It was working on my end. I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
Okay. So anyways, I think we have a good idea of that now. And I'll show that to you guys on another meeting too. We'll do that in some depth. I think you'll find it really helpful.
Mhm. So we could probably do a switch then. And so I stop share. There we go.
And I have noticed my internet's stopping for a second every few minutes, a minute ago. So if anything just pauses, I'll probably be right back, but just a heads up if I go away. So I just searched for sulfur buckwheat and this did come up. So I'm not exactly sure what was happening on Reagan's end. We'll have to troubleshoot with her more later. Anyway, so I want to kind of give a deep dive into gardening since I know that's what a lot of people here are interested in. Obviously, we got a really good overview from Reagan about all the many parts of native plants that CNPS is involved in. It's a lot, which I know can be a little overwhelming probably if you're just getting introduced to this. So we'll kind of focus on gardening for now. And so as Reagan showed, our home screen, we have a few short links with these nice images. And one of them I think that would be great for those of you who are interested in gardening is this beautiful hummingbird photo. This takes us to a page that our communications team, we put together this fall because fall is actually one of the best times to plant native plants and get them in before the winter. And then a lot of them are already bloom in the spring. So fall is a huge planting time for our chapters and they do a lot of plant sales. And so this page has a lot of short links to many resources and articles that are great to learn about. And let me make sure that my sound is shared. I'm just going to share a 1-minute video that kind of gives an overview of why native plants are so great.
California native plants are at the heart of our wildlands. They can have the very same place in our gardens. When we grow native plants, we transform a yard into a home for the wildlife that depend on native plants for survival. This fall, grow the native plants of your neighborhood and welcome wildlife home. How? Shop for native plants at local CNPS plant sales and native plant nurseries. Find locations near you at cnps.org/naturehood. Use calscape.org to discover California native plants for your zip code. It's that easy. Local native plants are crucial for native animals. When you add the right native plants to your garden, you help restore your corner of California. This fall, discover and grow the native plants of your neighborhood. Learn how at cnps.org/naturehood.
So that was a fun video we put together this fall. And even though, it's past fall, you can still always plant at other times, but fall is definitely the optimal time. And so here, we directed people to our chapter plant sales. So there's some chapters that will do them in the springtime. And then as Reagan started to show, Calscape is definitely a really great resource to kind of start your planning, and you can also find nurseries that are local to you. And then if you have friends that live elsewhere in California, we have a whole map which shows where nurseries are. And so kind of like the 3 steps we think that there is to Calscape, you can create your own account and then you can start saving plants to your own list. If you want to start planning out a list for your home garden, or if you're involved in a local school garden, you want to make a different list for them, you can make as many lists as you want, and they're also shareable. And so I said you can add plants to that, and then also the finding the nursery is a great tool. And on this page, we have a 5-minute video that kind of goes more in detail to Calscape. I won't play that right now, but you can certainly come back to this and watch it if you want a more guided tour of that. And our horticulture outreach manager, Anne-Marie, recorded this. So feel free to come back to that.
So Elizabeth, I didn't know you could just plug in your zip code.
Yeah, I can show that because that's definitely a neat feature. If I can, let's see. Well, I'm on the spot. I know I'm like,
so Leslie, what's your zip code?
Yes. It's 93614.
So So right here, what was it? 93, sorry, could you repeat that?
93614.
Let's see if this will work. So yeah, so this shows us here. That looks like the right location in this area near Coarse Gold. I remember hearing that earlier. So it's showing us there's 375 plants native to this exact spot. And so then you can see all the plants. You can click into trees, shrubs, the different kind of things you want. And you can also do kind of like a more advanced search here. And so if you wanted to specify what kind of plant you want, maybe you really want some grass, and maybe you want the water requirement to be very low or extremely low. And maybe you don't want to spend that much time in your garden, so you want some easier varieties, and click that. So there's all these different customizations you can do. And then where's the search? 1 second. And then you come back up to the top and click search here. And so now it's shown me 3 different grasses that are local to my area. And they meet my requirements of low water and also really easy care. And then you can always click into them.
And these, by the way, purple needlegrass is usually available at Intermountain Nursery, and sometimes California millet grass is too, just FYI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we might see them on this nursery plant list. You can find ones that are closer to you. And then as Reagan was mentioning, we have that really fun butterfly and moth connection. So if you want to bring butterflies and moths to your garden, you can see what their host plants are. And host plants, if you don't know, are plants that have co-evolved with pollinators. So they have, thousands of years history of working together. So the plant provides what the pollinator wants, and the pollinator maybe gives them back and helps them kind of reproduce. They have a very symbiotic relationship. And that's why native plants are so important, because they are connected to so much more than just plants. It goes all the way up the food chain. And it's also, as much as you can plant super locally, that's great too, just to provide even more of that local aspect to your garden.
And another connection, the last at the last conference, the keynote speaker emphasized how birds feed on caterpillars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Reagan's talking about Doug Talamine. I know we definitely have on our YouTube, which I might show in a minute. We have a talk saved by him. He has a really amazing case for why it's so important to plant locally and provide that habitat as it relates to caterpillars and birds and all of that. So we also have these native planting guides. So obviously Calscape is great, but maybe you're looking for kind of a short list and more visuals with that. And so it kind of looks like this, or kind of gives you this like landscape designer view. And I think I clicked on one here. And so this is an example from a different chapter. It kind of gives you, ideas of what your garden might look like, and have that variety of colors and textures all throughout all seasons. So this is another tool that you can share with your friends that live throughout California. And again, it kind of gives you just a short list of plants that might work well. Yeah, let's see what else. And so, as I mentioned, we have a YouTube page, and during COVID, we've really gone super virtual with all of our events, just to make them accessible and safe for everyone. And so you can get to this events page from that home page. We have a link there, or you can go to cnps.org/events. And so you can see upcoming ones. One that you all are probably going to be very interested in is February 4th. So I think that's next Thursday at 5:30 p.m. We're going to have this really awesome person named Saxon Holt. He's a photographer, and he's also all about, creating a very aesthetically pleasing garden that's, beautiful throughout the seasons. And that also means, you're going to embrace kind of that more natural look. So maybe not what, the average person would consider beautiful, but, you'll learn to appreciate the variety of looks. And so he's a photographer, so he has like, a very unique kind of artistic perspective. And so you can register for that event. We'll also record it and it will be on our YouTube. And then if you want to see kind of just like a really easy to look at list of events, I also put them here. So again, you can see that February 4th event coming up. But what I've also done is if chapters have recorded events or partners have recorded events, I save them at the bottom of this, and I've kind of split them up into different categories. So obviously social justice and diversity has become, a really big conversation, especially in 2020. And so we've linked to some partners on that if you're interested in learning about that. And then, gardening, there's all sorts of fascinating talks you can listen to. So as I was talking about, host plants are really important. So there's this beautiful pipe vine butterfly that relies on the pipe vine plant. If you don't know what that looks like, let me show you actually, because it's so cool. I actually have a sticker of it in my room right now from an artist friend. Oops. Let's see. Pipe vine.
Not just me.
I know, I'm like, what is going on with this today? I typing it weirdly, or maybe I'm typing it. Okay, let's see. I don't know what's happening. All right, well, I'll have to look into that with some people, but let me show you. Da, da, da. So this is the beautiful butterfly. You can see the caterpillar. It's a really unique plant. I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if it's unique to where you live, but so you can learn to talk about that. You can learn from our partner
do have
society.
pipe vine swallowtails.
Okay, awesome. I just didn't want to spread any fake information, so I was like, I don't know for sure off the top of my head. And then Xerces Society, they're a partner group, and they're very focused on insects, and so you can learn why they think native plants are important. And we've just had so many amazing virtual talks, and that that's kind of the silver lining of COVID, because we have had to take things online, and that means we can record them. And now you all get to have access to all of this, months after they were presented. And so if anyone here has a dog, we even did a dogscaping webinar. I think we kind of made that up, dog landscaping, dogscaping. And so we have a whole webinar with different people that are native plant gardeners that also have dog friends. And so how do you have those two coexist and have your garden be safe? So in case they might eat something, they're not going to get too sick or something. And our most recent one was urban gardening. And that was for people that are more so renters. And so, they might be moving home to home, and it's a little more difficult to, commit to a whole garden, but maybe they can plant in containers and that sort of thing. And so all of these, they click through.
Welcome everybody.
A past event, and it will take you directly to the link of where it's recorded. So some of our chapters have saved theirs on Facebook or something. So it will take you to a link there, and you can watch this at any time. And so this is a really awesome way to kind of get if you're a visual learner, to get that video talk and feel more interactive if, scrolling through the website isn't as fun for you. And then also, if you're interested in the more kind of wild side of native plants, these kind of flora tours and plant talks, it's really fun to look through. So there's just so many resources on here. And I'm just looking at the time. I'm just gonna jump over to our kind of more of our gardening stuff besides that Naturehood page. So if you're on artwork and go to gardening, as you can see, the drop down creates a longer drop down. You can see all these different topics. So if you want to learn about design basics or how to choose your plants or more of the maintenance, there's all these different things. So I'm going to go to Garden Ambassadors. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to get to where you want. So you can get to Garden Ambassadors from clicking on gardening, and you'll see, I think we have it probably. Yeah, it says meet your garden ambassadors here. Here's all these kind of topics that I mentioned. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to get to where you want to go. So garden ambassadors are CNPS members that have primarily native plants. So we're definitely not like, you must have only native plants and can't plant, some of your favorite other species. But, we definitely want to focus on native plants, but some of these people have some other plants growing there too. And these are really fun because you get kind of a deep dive into what it was like for someone to start their native garden and what all went into that. And let me see, I'll just click into this person's Groveland's garden. So that means that she's like kind of near Yosemite area. And so all of these profiles have very similar information. So you get to know, where is their garden located? How big is their garden? What year did they plant it? Because the big thing with native plants, it does take a little bit of time for it to develop, and it may not, look like the cover of a magazine right away, but it just takes a little bit of time to grow. And we have these slideshows, and you can click through them, or we'll go through naturally. And sometimes we are able to label what's in the photos. So I'll just show this for a second. And this is really fun because you get to see gardens all throughout California and kind of get to see that unique local palette of plants everyone has to work from. And you get to see all the little, pollinator friends that visit the gardens. And some people are lucky enough to have water features, which is awesome as well. So there's that. And we have the garden ambassadors tell us, what their favorite plants are and why. And so California has, some very beautiful smells that are just so nice to breathe in, on a warm summer evening or something, like sagebrush or coyote mint. I was just telling Leslie and Reagan, I'm definitely I like to go out on hike and see native plants. I don't garden too much myself, but whenever I bring my friends, I always make them stop and smell plants, and that's a really great way to get people connected to that. And so a lot of people, they have to remove their lawn before they add native plants. And we definitely, removing your whole lawn might feel like a big undertaking. So you can always just start with half of it or a smaller portion and just kind of dip your toes into planting a little bit more native plants. And people talk about how they did the design and installation, what their inspiration was. That's really is a variety of inspiration depending on who it is. Talking about irrigation, a lot of native plants they don't really need a sprinkler system, but people hand water. Some people will install like drip irrigation, and we have plenty of resources that go into the details of all the nitty gritty of maintenance with native plants. And then you get to kind of learn people's tips and tricks from their challenges over the years and advice. And then we also have like a whole list of plants that they have. So that's a really fun thing. And I just wanted to show also, so pretty much any article you'll see on the CNPS website is kind of like in a blog format. And so there's two different kind of filing structures that we have. We have categories, which is like a big bucket. So if you want to see everything related to gardening, you can always see this on the right side. It says categories, and you can click into gardening. And this will show you anything we've uploaded. This is in order of like most recent that we've uploaded. And so you can see we had this was taken, I believe we had it in our Flora magazine that Reagan mentioned, which is a print magazine. We put this article online. And so this is about how you can have floral arrangements. So you don't have to, go to Safeway and get a generic, Valentine's gift, but you could actually be creating that from your garden, or for Mother's Day. That's probably more timely. That's when most of the flowers are blooming. But, there's like these Q&As with people that are very experienced with that. And so you get to learn from them. And so I just got there from going to the gardening spot. And then the second part to look at, so we have that categories. So you can always click into other ones. And again, you can always like get to these from this up upward spot, but then we also have all these tags. So this allows us to be a little bit more specific. So if you really like this format of garden Q&A, you can see here, you can click into garden Q&A, and now, wow, you have all these articles that go into details in that format. So if you're part of a homeowner association, you can learn how to kind of work around that. If you really want to have color in your garden throughout the year, there's that. So I'll just click into one of these. So here's one about irrigation and watering. And I'll just click into one other of these. Let's see. So if I want to have a water-wise garden, you know, I'm really trying to limit my water use. Here's all these articles about water. And then what I love to do, you can also, up here to the right of the give button, there's a search tool. And so you can always click on this. And if you're like, I want to learn about deer and how that impacts native plants. And I have to know off the top of my head, we definitely have deer articles. So you can just type in what you're interested in and search for it. And then our website will show you anything that's related to it. So obviously it might pull something that's not related, like this location of a rare plant treasure hunt, but you can also see all these articles that are telling you how to garden when you have a lot of deer coming by. And I love Leslie saying about, accepting what you can't control in your garden, because obviously you want to work with wildlife and, they might come into your garden. You're going to have to maybe be okay with that. But there are ways to kind of have some plants that are maybe a little bit more sturdy or might not be quite as tasty for the deer. So I think that's a pretty good overview of our gardening. And there's just so much to learn. And obviously if you get involved in your local chapter, that will be a great way to do that. So
It looks like deer is your forte.
Pardon?
It looks like deer is your forte.
Maybe. Yeah, we have a lot. We have a lot there. I've worked with CNPS for so long that I just know what exists on our website. And so I'll just search for whatever and it will just quickly show me what I want. So I don't always go through our drop downs, but you can certainly find what you want there.
What are those articles by you?
This is actually it shows that I put it online. I didn't necessarily write it, but I have written our kids corner ones. So let's see. So I do a lot of different things for CNPS. And so I think you saw this kids corner pollinator party. And so if any of you are young at heart, I very much, I am, I go roller skating and I'm dancing and singing pretty much every day. But so kids corner is meant for anyone that likes to have fun. And so these have, kind of more basic introductions to botany concepts or native plants. And then, here's this bingo card you could take out with you on your next walk and try to notice a few more things than you maybe normally would. And we had people make zines, which are mini magazines that are super duper tiny. I actually have mine in my room. And as I was talking about, I'm super into host plants. And so I was learning about the California dog-faced butterfly, and I looked up all these fun facts about it and I put it into this little zine. So there's tons of activities, and, you can click at the bottom here. It shows you what tags there are. So, I can click Kids Corner. And so if I want to have a bunch of fun activities to do with, the younger people in my life, or just something I want to do on a Friday night, you can click through here and learn about that. So there's so many resources to learn and get excited about connecting with nature in different ways on our website. And hopefully this was, a lot, but hopefully you picked up something from that. So I think at this time we wanted to give, 5 or 10 minutes just for Q&A, and Leslie, Reagan, me, or any other members that are here can definitely answer some questions.
Elizabeth, could I ask you if you wouldn't mind just going over the membership thing?
Yeah, I
How to
can
become a member?
Sure. Let me present my screen again.
We encourage you guys to become members. There are many benefits to you as an individual and to us as a group if we begin to have more members. who are members of the Sequoia chapter of California Native Plant Society. So we encourage that.
Yeah, definitely. So, I just clicked onto our cnps.org membership. I got to that from navigating. I went to get involved. So you can, go to membership or learn about the chapters. Anyway, so it kind of outlines here. I know we've mentioned this a few times, but Flora magazine is our quarterly print publication that comes to your mailbox. And so I just loaded this earlier because I know it's taking us a while because it is such a image-based thing that was taking a while to load. But this is like, you can look at archived versions of it. And this was a very beautiful cover. This is California
The art on our
graphic.
logo.
I think it was made digitally.
Leslie
And this
Gorman.
came from art competition we did. And so Flora is definitely about featuring our community and everyone involved all throughout California. And so, sheltering in place was obviously a new topic to us in the summer, and people got to talk about their experiences with that. So there's just so many different articles in here. And as you can see, it's very visually pleasing. You get to learn about new plants. And we do kind of different interviews with people. Chris Sarabia is our board president, and he, in this article, he talked about access and equity, and so how it's, different people are able to access nature in different ways and how to get everyone connected. And he gets to like go back into his life story. This was a really fun piece about herbaria, which are basically like plant libraries. And so you kind of get to learn about all the different areas of CNPS, but in a more friendly way than maybe our more scientific publication. So our scientific publication is currently called Fermentia, and this is like very much like scientific reviewed in-depth articles. And it also has beautiful photos because native plants are so beautiful. And this comes to your mailbox twice a year. And then as I was mentioning, as a member, you get to hear first about what's happening in your chapter. And you often get, discounts or special access to like plant sales. I'm not exactly sure what Sequoia does, but, you always get kind of first priority for anything that's happening. Like we're not currently doing field trips, so that might open up as we're able to have more safety procedures. And then obviously those spots definitely go towards members first. And then obviously networking is a huge thing. Like I've met so many amazing people, and nature folks are definitely the best people I know. And yeah, this is also e-news. That's what I was mentioning, Ray, if you want to get email notifications. And this is open to anyone. You don't have to be a member. So if you're not quite ready for that step, you can definitely like get to know us a little bit more before you commit. And you get to be involved in advocacy. So we're not just planting gardens, but we're also actively, seeking out legislation and protecting irresponsible development from happening. And there's just so many parts of CNPS to get involved in. And so, if you're at all interested, definitely join us. Our members are really what breathed life into CNPS. We rely so heavily on our volunteers, and we're so thankful for everything they do. And Flora is definitely a way you get to like learn about what's happening. And definitely can like follow us on our social media if you use that, or sign up for our e-news, and you'll get to hear a little bit about all of that too. So I guess, Leslie, if there's any questions, do you want to take those now?
All right, if you guys want to raise your hands, I'll remind you that you can go at the bottom of your screens to the smiley face that says reactions, and you can choose to raise your hand. And if that's a little unwieldy, you can just speak up. And I'm gonna, anything come up? Any questions about California Native Plant Society or use of the website or membership or anything like that? Are there any questions that you guys thought about in the beginning of the meeting that maybe this is a forum for you to ask them? I would say at this point, it can be something specific, even if it's not about the presentation, but we're here, we have a little bit of time, and I know you guys are full of questions because I get a lot of them during the week. This is your chance, even if you're like, how do I, get rid of this rock in my yard? That's okay too. We're open to that. So we'll just have some silence and see if we get some questions.
Ask the girls about how Cowscape came under
Oh,
CNPS.
oh, right. So, Elizabeth, I don't know if you know this history, but I know a little history about the Cowscape, that search engine that we looked at, where it has the map and all the information. It's my understanding that it was started by a guy basically as a labor of love. Maybe he had a grant or didn't, someone associated with UC Berkeley's Jepson Herbarium, maybe. He used to do it as a labor of love, and I think it was taken over by CNPS not too long ago. And now it's folded into CNPS, is that right?
Yeah. His name is escaping me in this moment, but yes, it definitely was this one guy who, just really want to make this search engine. And then more recently, he kind of handed it over to CNPS so that we can start to build it out a little bit more and hopefully have a little less glitches sometimes. But,
Oh yeah, it's working a lot more smoothly now. Yeah.
I'm looking at the about page, and Leslie is exactly right that it was started part of a Jepson Flora project at UC Berkeley, and that definitely got Cowscape off the ground. And so, it will just continue to get better and better as we get more feedback from the community and have, more funding and resources to be able to make it as useful as possible so that everyone can get involved with native plants. And a lot of the photos that come from there are from community members, or there's this really cool website called Cal Photos, and so some photos are sourced from there. And so you can always see like who's credited in those photos, because I always love being able to look up the plants and see what they look like, which is a great feature there.
I've got a question for you. I really like, field guides. Obviously, they're beautiful in identifying plants, but the apps on your phone are obviously much more convenient. Is there one you would recommend that identifies them pretty well?
Me personally, I've been using iNaturalist a lot. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but it's a really cool app on your phone, or you can use it on your computer. I'm pretty sure you can upload your photos there. And it uses artificial intelligence, and it's kind of able to like recognize the photo. And sometimes it's totally accurate. Sometimes it's honestly completely off, and you'll be able to compare it. But it takes the GPS coordinates, so the latitude, longitude of where you're located, and it knows what's around there, what other people have seen. And it's this really cool community science project. And CNPS definitely works closely with people at iNaturalist. That's a really neat way to kind of take photos of your hike or nature walk and save your photos there. And then it's very much community-based, because other people will go in and help identify your plants. And it's not just limited to plants. You can have insects, you can have wildlife. And so it's, very broad. And some really cool things have happened from iNaturalist, like someone spotted like, I don't know, a shark in some weird part of the world. And it was like the first time the researchers have seen it there. And so like, there's all these scientific discoveries happening just from everyday people like us, just being like, I'm gonna take a cool photo. And then sometimes scientists get to use it to help with their research. So that's definitely a really cool app. I'll put that in the chat so people can look into that. That's the one that I always hear people going towards. And that was started by some like grad students at UC Berkeley. And then it's obviously developed into much more than that. And I know there's some other apps out there. So if there's anyone else on this call that has favorite things to use, feel free to share. And CNPS, we do have a store where we have a lot of different field guides, and we're currently working on more and more books that are contributed from CNPS members. So if you want to have that hard copy of a field guide and look things up, you can also purchase those on our website. I'll put that in the chat as well.
I see we have a question from Preston.
Okay. Well, first off, I just want to tell anybody who's trying to raise their hand, on my computer, you have to raise your hand through participant, not through reactions. So I don't know if that's important for anybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one thing about the blonde ambition on the corner. Are we going to cut that down?
Oh, yeah, we are. It's getting to be about time. Yeah. Yes, we are.
And does anybody here, you cut your woolly bull curls and your bladder pod down during the winter? Or do you leave
Oh, bladder pod, no.
it? Okay.
You may want to just do, you know, trim off the dead, or do any, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't unless it's dead, or unless there's a shape you kind of want it in. I would pretty much leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let's see.
Kind of going back to Edward's question, when I've been out like hiking, there is an app that I've downloaded to my phone and it's been pretty helpful. It's called Picture This. And if I've come across a plant, and I will take a picture of it and it will identify it, and hopefully it's accurate and let me know, you know, what the plant is. And then you can click on the link of the plant and it will give you a lot of the information that some of the Cowscape stuff has as far as size and all that kind of. So that's been fun to help me identify, because I'm learning a lot of new plants in the area. So it's called Picture This. And it's just in the App Store, Android store.
Awesome. Thanks, Darcy.
Yeah.
And then I'm also putting in the chat, if you're not as comfortable with smartphone apps, we do also have a CNPS Facebook group, which is very much community based, and people are always posting in there. And so if you do take a photo and you're pretty sure it's a native plant, feel free to post a photo of it and say your location, and more likely than not, someone else will chat within the day and tell you what it is. So I'm putting a link to that. So if you're on Facebook, you can definitely request to join this group. Make sure you answer all the questions. It's gonna ask you like, what's your favorite native plant? And do you agree to be respectful in the group? It's a group of over 47,000 people. So it's a bit of a challenge to keep everything, you know, cheerful all the time, but we do our best.
It's like my favorite thing in the world, Elizabeth. I'm on it
Good.
every day. Like if I don't get the mail, I don't look at my email, I haven't had breakfast, I'm on the California Native Plant Society page, and any question I have, I just put it on there. You know,
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, this happened. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you can always
all the time.
You can also search through old topics. So if you want to learn about a certain plant, or you want to learn about, I don't know, deer again, you can always type into the search tool like deer, and any topic that's come up in the past will show you. You can see all these different threads of fascinating conversations, but it's very much, not heavily moderated. So it may not always be super, in line exactly what we might say professionally, but it's a fun group to be a part of. Like, I don't know if everyone saw the Bernie Sanders meme going around where Bernie Sanders was in all these different places. I just had to make my own. So I put him inside of a native garden and posted it on that group, and got almost 3,000 likes and all these different comments and whatever. So, it's a scientific place, but it's also kind of a silly, fun place for community. So definitely check that out if you like to be on Facebook. And I just want to specify, so that's our Facebook group, but we still do have our Facebook page where we'll post more official posts and everything. So definitely check out both if you're a Facebook person.
The Facebook thing is really, really fun. I've had two great experiences. One, I suggested a plant for somebody in a long question, and her response was, "Oh, I was thinking of that." And I just love that kind of enthusiasm. The other was a couple of years ago, as Leslie knows, I posted a picture on International New Gardening Day of me standing in my garden with a pot strategically placed, and created quite an uproar because people could not see enough native plants in it. And then someone came to my rescue and identified about 10 native plants that were there. That was
Yes,
very
I remember that. The admin team was like, what do we do with this?
She remembers.
Sometimes it might
Kristen,
get
you're
hard for us to
famous.
decide what's appropriate and not, but.
Well, somebody referred me to the inappropriate gardening Facebook page too.
Okay,
And
very
they were very happy with it.
Good.
Yeah.
So is that the plant equivalent of what is it? The shitty bird photos Facebook page?
Yeah, right, which is a great page. I actually recently, I have been enclosing an area of my yard from deer so that I can plant some things that are not deer proof. But I was very, very wary of installing any fencing at all because I didn't want to do any harm to wildlife. So I turned to that page for advice and ended up getting a lot of good input. I mean, some really gnarly input, but I took it in stride. But I did get this one man who ended up recommending very specifically and with numerous photographs exactly what I ended up doing. And it was invaluable help for me from someone with my values who was in a really rural property who also wanted to use, humane materials so that, fawns wouldn't get their heads stuck in it, in the spring. And it was one of my most positive experiences with it. And I want to stress what Elizabeth said, which is you can go to that page and along the left-hand side, there's a search box, not the top search, which searches all of Facebook, but the box on the left, you can search that Facebook archives. Like you can put in, a plant and see what all of those folks have said about it. And it'll range anywhere from like a newbie native plant gardener to the person who actually is the first person who ever described the species, who it's like named after, might say something about it, because that wide range of people is on that list and reading. So you can get from newbies to the world's experts on the question that you have. So it's quite a wonderful resource if you're a native plant, if you're passionate about native plants, you have some questions. Any other questiones? Okay, I think let's take the last few minutes for just our sort of personal reflection questions that we did in the beginning. If we could, let's all sort of take a deep breath and focus back on what we were thinking about before this really lovely and helpful presentation. Maybe go back to the three questions that you may have had in the beginning. And given a little bit of the input that you've had tonight, would you like to sort of share whether it's one of those questions or an answer that you seem to have found as a result of tonight's information, or even how you may have changed the question given tonight's information? Let's take about a minute for you just quietly to reflect on those questions and see if you have made any progress toward answering them with tonight's information. And if not, how might you answer those questions? Let's take about a minute. Maybe some of those questions can be answered on the website. Okay, would anyone like to share anything about that process, or a question or a thought or a change or anything like that? I mean, I can share that I'm thinking of planting 2 types of native California grapevines in my deer-proof area. And I'm going to use Cowscape to find, because I know there's 2 different species of native California grape, and I want to get more details about sort of where the California grapevine versus another one that's called Girdiana. I want to find the ranges, and I'm going to find that in Cowscape and see if there's difference in their water requirements. That was one of my questions. Anybody else? Edward.
Yeah, I had I was trying to think about how to replace some of the invasive stuff that seems to be stabilizing a hillside, and then I saw the bank stabilization link on Cowscape, so I've just been putzing around on that today.
I think that's great. And that's also a great point. I wonder the same thing. I have a steep slope with all this mustard, and when I pull that deep taproot out for that mustard, it's more likely to erode. So I have such, all of that stuff is challenging. And I think it's great that you saw that resource, Edward. Thanks. Yeah. A lot of us have those stabilization issues that we need to be thinking about. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so thank you, Reagan O'Leary and Elizabeth Cuby, for your generous and expert help with this. So I say yay. Thank you very much. And I know folks on here are thanking you too, even though Zoom's so awkward for everybody thanking people for things. And unless there's anything else, I will. Thank you, Darcy. We got some applause from Darcy in a little thingy. And Lily, thank you, Lily. And Preston, thank you, Preston. Okay, so I'm going to book.
I wanted to put out there too, while you guys are exploring the website, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
I love that. I don't think they have how would they reach you?
Well, it'll be on our newsletter. Well, it's on our newsletter. I guess you could send it. You could send it to the group.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we leave, I remind myself that when I wake up in the morning, I'm likely going to find a white sage and a Cleveland sage that were doing really great all year. Pretty much every night, there are branches that are literally shorn off by a local buck. And I prepare for that by reminding myself that I want to enjoy my morning walk. So to prepare for that, I ask for the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, because I'm not going to be out there talking to that buck, talking him out of it. And I'm not going to cage every sage on my property. So I ask for the serenity to accept the bucks I cannot change, the courage to change the cages and go for cages I can, and the wisdom to know the difference before I take my morning coffee out to enjoy the morning in the garden. And for being here. And our next meeting will be the last Monday in February. And that